G'day jabronis, it is the Verd back with you again, and welcome here to our Week 2 team builder for the NPL. Your Tampa Frogadiers are up against the Los Angeles Clefable, coached by Regulator. So both of us came off a pretty rough Week 1. I, of course, came up very short against Gypsy, and Greg unfortunately lost to Blake. So we're both 0-1, not wanting to go 0-2, so it's a very crucial game for both of us. And it's the first time we've actually played against each other, which is pretty exciting. We were meant to play against each other in the major PL, but I just wasn't really feeling like playing, so I just decided to forfeit, really. I just wasn't in a good headspace, so it is what it is. But yeah, Greg's got a very, very scary team. Prepping for this game was very tough, but I do feel confident with the team that I put together. I feel that, you know, against Gypsy, I was a bit iffy on certain sets, but I'm going to back myself with these sets and just go for it. I think that's the best way to kind of do this. So I'm sticking to my guns, I'm going with what I got, and hopefully you can put in the work for me this week. So kicking things off, my standout lead for this matchup is going to be Hydreigon. The reason I really like this set in a lead matchup is it basically covers every lead he could go with. Obviously, if he leads Rotom, I get to freely click Dark Pulse against something. His only Dark Resist on his entire team is a Alolan Raticate, which I can just click Dark Pulse into Dragon Pulse and pretty much just knock that thing out because it doesn't really have that much bulk. So that's really nice. The main reason for it, though, is the lead matchups against things like the Scolipede, the Charizard, and the Landorus. So against the Scolipede, because of the Sash that I have, unless he's running Pin Missile, which I feel is highly unlikely in this situation, I will be able to just straight up click Flamethrower and either get a ridiculously good chunk onto the Scolipede or just knock it out. So there's no way it can really take advantage of the situation. If it tries to sub, I can weaken it. It's no big deal, I'm not going to be afraid of it. Against the Charizard, it's the mind game of am I scarfed or not in that situation. A lot of times people have been switching out in the mocks, fearing the scarf, but at the same time they might not. So because of that, I think that, you know, having the Sash is really good because if he stays in, expecting me not to be scarfed and goes to the Dragon Claw, obviously Sash will mean I survive, and then I can click Dragon Pulse and just knock out the Charizard, which is obviously a big threat to my team, so being able to knock that thing out turn 1 is huge. And then in regards to the Lando, if say maybe he expects me to switch, or I fear like a certain Lando set and he just goes for rocks, then I can just go for double Dark Pulse, which basically just knocks out most Landorus variants. And also helps me scout Scarf Lando if I see it go off before me and he tries to superpower or something, then I can obviously take it and follow up with a Dark Pulse and get good chip on him, and it's just good to read information. I've got Roost on there because there are situations where I might not get brought down to my Sash against certain things, and so then by being able to Roost, I might be able to stay at full health and have the ability to live a hit from a certain mon. It can be really clutch later in the game against something like Stack Attacker, although I can't really hit it too hard. Dark Pulse does do a good chunk. I was tempted to chuck on something like U-Turn or Superpower, potentially for them, but I just felt that Roost was more beneficial as it does give me another switch into Rotom potentially later in the game. But moving on to, the speed, by the way, is just to creep Jolly Lando, nothing really that special, and then a bit of extra investment into my defensive stats just because of Sizzle. Next up, we have my main defensive wall for this game, Gliscor. Looks quite standard. The reason it has 16 speed investment is just so that it can speed creep Adamant Scizor. I feel that Jolly Scizor probably isn't going to be run in this matchup. It doesn't really gain any big speed advantage over anything else. If he's going to bring it, it's going to be Adamant, so being able to outspeed that is going to be huge. Obviously, I don't really have a way to hurt it too badly. EQ does a good amount, but it's not really designed to deal with Scizor. It's just nice to have the speed creep there. The main defensive investment here is specifically designed, it is my main check to things like Landorus, to Charizard, to Stack Attacker. So the big pressure with Gliscor is that it's going to, because it's dealing with so many things, it's under a lot of pressure in a lot of the game, so I've got to make sure I preserve it well, make sure it can take the hits, and then, you know, go from there, make sure it's at a good range of HP to deal with certain things. But that is also why I have the Araquanid on the team, because it can deal with some of these mons too, and the way that I orientated a lot of the team was to not allow things like Charizard and Landorus to get free setup in most scenarios of the game. But yeah, Ice Fang is just there for the Lando too, preventing that setup, like I said, getting off really, really good damage there, as well as also hitting Celebi quite nicely. I decided Rocks over Toxic because the only thing I'd really want to Toxic is the Rotom, and I have my Araquanid that can come in pretty freely against that most of the time. But speaking of the Araquanid, It's a pretty interesting set this week. It is an Assault Vest Araquanid. Really liking this set in the matchup. Liquidation is just such an easily spammable move. Absolutely annihilates a lot of mons on his team. Specifically, it does a massive amount of work to things like the Charizard, as well as it does like a huge amount to Stack Attacker. Facade, it was a tricky one. I was tossing up between Facade and Lunge in this matchup, because Lunge obviously would be good for the Celebi and also lowers attack stats, but Facade's also really nice because I feel that Greg might bring Toxic on his Rotom to bypass the potential for Mirror Coat on my Araquanid, and if that happens I can just go straight for the Facade and get it for a good chunk. The HP Psychic might seem a little bit weird on this team. It is designed here for the Toxicroak, as a regular Araquanid set is not really able to actually break Dry Skin Toxicroak. So I've packed it on here. Even with no special attack investment, I'm pretty much guaranteed a 2-hit KO of that thing. So that's really huge. Being able to potentially catch that thing and weaken it is a massive factor in this game. So very happy with the Araquanid set. It's also the defensive EVs there. It is bulky enough to where it can live a Jolly Life Orb Mega Horn from Scolipede after rocks, which is really important to be able to get off that liquidation and weaken that thing down if need be, if later in the game I need Araquanid to put in the work. But at the same time, I just like the full defensive bulk, being able to take a hit from Charizard and being able to, you know, liquidate right back at its face. Mirror Coat's really nice for the Rotom trying to Volt Switch away. I can just click that. So that's my plan, is basically if he clicks Toxic on me and I click Mirror Coat, then I can follow up potentially with a Facade play if he tries to do something else, or I can just Mirror Coat again. It's not a big deal. He may just hard swap and then I can just go for a Facade on something else, so that could be really nice. But moving on, we have Gengar here, one of my main breakers on my team, because again, one big thing about Greg's team is that his only switch into Ghost type moves is that Alolan Raticate. It is a Darkened Normal type, the only Darkened Normal type that he has, so anything else on his team is getting hit at least neutrally by Shadow Ball. That's why I got Spooky Plate on there, to increase Shadow Ball's power. Just the main spammable move. Icy Wind is on there for things like Charizard that might try and set up, knowing that it can take the Shadow Ball, so I can go for Icy Wind into Shadow Ball, which is really clutch. As well as the Lando is really important, and Hidden Power Fighting is there for the mind games with a Alolan Raticate, where if it does come in, I could click Destiny Bond on the potential pursuit as he knocks me out, and then I could take him down with me, which is also really nice for the Hydreigon, because it means he no longer has a Dark Pulse resist on his team. So it means I can basically take out a Mon and then take out Raticate, or if he tries to Sucker Punch and I debond, I can follow up the next turn with HP Fighting and potentially take out the Raticate from there. So overall, really solid. The speed creeping here is for things like Celebi and Zard. I don't feel like he'll bring Celebi, but it's nice to just creep it because it's on the same speed tier as Zard regardless. But yeah, this is going to be used quite aggressively. I'm not going to try and hard swap it in. I've made the mistake in a few mocks of hard swapping it in, and I just lose it all the time, so I'd rather just kind of send it in a bit later on after that. But moving on to probably my two big win cons in this matchup against Greg. First of which being this Blaziken. This, I feel, in a lot of mocks has put in a serious amount of work. Mixed attacking Blaziken just rips through his team. If the Lando gets weakened, then it's just you. Rotom, actually, if the Rotom gets weakened, then it's basically game. Because High Jump Kick does an obscene amount to things like Rotom and Zard. Blitz just decimates most of his team. And then Hidden Power Ice is solely there for the Lando Asterion, but is very important. With the investment that I have, Life Orb HP Ice is a guaranteed OHKO after rocks, basically, so unless he's running the Archie Berry, which I can scout for earlier because of the fact that my Gliscor has Ice Fang, then I can play around this nicely. I'm a little bit worried about potential like double setup Lando, but like I said, with the way that my team's orientated, Lando never really comes in for free. Like, I could agility with Blaziken, he could go hard Lando, but then I'm at +2 speed, he can't outspeed me, and I can HP Ice. As far as the speed that Blaziken does have, I have enough investment to where Jolly Scolipede, if it goes for a Protect, won't get enough of a speed boost to be able to outspeed me. So then I can just knock it out with Blitz, which is really important. And that is the same thing for my Necrozma. This was the initial first win con that I designed because I looked at the matchup against Greg, and this thing just put in an obscene amount of work. Like I said, Gengar can bait the Alolan Raticate if it does come and knock it out, and if the Alolan Raticate goes down, then this guy, Necrozma, he has a huge chance of winning the game. Rock Polish again with enough speed to creep that Scolipede. Then rocking Earth Power because that just decimates Charizard, as well as Stack Attacker especially. Heat Wave is there for the Scizor and the Celebi. And then Photon Geyser just absolutely obliterates everything else. With the Psyche MZ, I wish I could run across the MZ. Psyche MZ, because obviously that does, I think it's 180 base power from memory. So that'll be really solid. I think that, you know, it's going to break his team quite hard. And that's the thing, like Necrozma and Blaziken can kind of work together at breaking his team, and that's going to be the big factor in this game. I just got to choose my timing really well with the Psyche MZ. If I see that Greg has a Pokemon that's quite weakened, I won't be as obliged to click it. I'd rather click Psyche MZ when all of his Mons are healthy, or like when every Mon that he has remaining is healthy, so that I don't just get caught clicking my Z move against a potential sack, because that would be that'd be pretty stupid. So definitely really excited to use this team. I feel very confident with it. Like, I don't really sound like I am, but I do feel very confident with the team. I think the big things that I have to watch out for sure is the Landorus. Gliscor is an okay check, but it's not like the best check for it. Hydreigon as the lead should be able to shut down something on turn 1. Gliscor can have a bit of the pressure taken off of it if I have Araquanid in the back, and there's actually not a lot of things that Zard can just come in freely against, like Gengar obviously pressures it with the Icy Wind. Blaziken will have possibly set up by then, as well as Necrozma, so they can both immediately pressure Zard. Obviously, like I was saying, with the mind games with Hydreigon being the Scarf lead, and obviously he's not really going to set up against the Gliscor. That would be an interesting decision for sure. I've seen someone do it to me in a mock, and I just know now that if in doubt, just leave Gliscor in. If Rotom comes in, I have the incredibly safe switch in of Araquanid. It's not even a big deal. If he vaults predicting, then good on him, but that's a hard read. At that point, I could also just go hard Hydreigon in that situation and be in a really good spot too. Because if my Sash is still intact, then Rotom can come in and damage me, and then I can potentially like Roost up or something. Like, I've got plays around it, and I could find a way to maybe keep my Sash intact. But I feel good with the team. There's definitely a few threats on there. Garde has been a bit of an annoying issue, which is why I also have the Araquanid on this team. But overall, the plan is pretty simple. I lead Hydreigon, I manage his threats with Gliscor and Araquanid, I try and clear a path with Gengar, and then realistically, what I'm just trying to do, guys, is get myself in a situation where Blaziken or Necrozma can set up. And the few ways that can happen is, the big one is Scizor. Because of Scizor in the game, that's why I really wanted to bring Diancie initially over Gengar, was because it forces Scizor to want to click Bullet Punch. And if that happens, then Blaziken can just go for a free agility after that, and that could potentially be game. So there was that temptation, but at the same time, a lot of his Mons, there are definitely potential chances set up on them. Like, if one of my Mons is weakened, like say Gengar, you know, is quite weakened and Scizor comes in to revenge it, because I feel like he has to bring Scizor, or maybe even Toxicroak, for the fact that they can put in a lot of work against the Diancie. Then because of that, I get the chance to set up with Blaziken. And Necrozma can kind of set up against a lot of things. It can just take a hit really, really well, and then just get up that Rock Polish, and that's all it needs to do. So definitely got a lot of opportunities, I feel. I'm pretty confident with the team. We just got to go in there and get it done. I just got to back myself. I feel in the game against Greg, I didn't play, the game against Gypsy, I didn't necessarily play badly. It was just one turn that really cost me. So I just got to make sure I make the best decisions at the right time. So fingers crossed that can go well. I hope you guys have enjoyed this team builder video. If you have, slap a like on it. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Go check out Greg. I'll chuck his channel in the description. And leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about the team, how you feel it's going to go in the matchup. I will be playing this game against Greg in real time when I'm recording this in about 3 or 4 hours. So I'm pretty nervous for it, because I just don't want to go 0-2. I feel like this team can carry me towards a victory, and I'm hoping it can put in the work. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is The Verd. I'm out this bitch. Yeah, jabronis, it is The Verd here, probably syncing over again from the team builder to the game that we have here against Greg and the Los Angeles Clefable. I'm just going to give a quick little disclaimer. When it came to this battle, it was done at a really bad time, and that's not necessarily anybody's fault, but my own. Before this, I had played my week 4 PPL game against Jack, where unfortunately there was a bit of hacks involved in the game that caused me to lose, and I was quite upset by that. And with Greg and I were meant to play the day before, but unfortunately Greg was feeling under the weather. He felt better on this day and we were able to play, but I think if I'd had a clearer head, literally what happened is I'd lost that game to Jack, and then Greg said, "Are you good to play?" And instead of being like, well, I've just had a league game, it hasn't gone too well, can you just give me like a couple of hours just to shake it out of my system, focus, maybe get a couple more mocks in, just feel more confident with the team again, and then we'll be all good. But instead I was like, you know what, it can't get much worse than this, sure, let's just jump straight in. And that was the wrong mindset to get into. If you guys lose a game, especially if it is by hacks or something really frustrating, then I think what you need to do is just take a step back and take some time and then get into your next game. Don't just kind of roll on through them, because it definitely affected me in this game 100%. Another big thing that affected me in this game was that I initially, and I've made this mistake a couple of times, tried to record the start of this game with regular Camtasia, but it just doesn't seem to work, so I'm going to have to just do post-comms from now on, because for some reason when I do Wi-Fi I can do the live recording, but when I try and do live recording with Camtasia on Showdown, it just didn't want to work for me. So go figure. Pretty frustrating, but that's all the precursors out of the way. So I will be first to admit that I did not play at 100% in this game. I would say I was at maybe at 65 or 70%. I was still aware of my team, what I had to do, but I just wasn't really there for a lot of this game. But regardless, let's break down Greg's team. So he brought basically almost everything I expected. Garde I knew was going to be an issue. I kind of regretted bringing Araquanid over Ferrothorn. I feel like the Choppal Ferrothorn would have been a lot better in general, looking at the team that Greg brought. I felt kind of stupid bringing Araquanid, but regardless, we are going to kick this battle off. So I lead with Hydreigon, he leads with Gardevoir, and here is the first turn where I end up making a bad play. So because my Hydreigon is sashed, I could have scouted here for the Scarf Moonblast from Gardevoir, or I could have just played it safe and gone immediately out to my Araquanid and left the sash on my Hydreigon intact, which is exactly what I would have done. In this situation, I had no reason to risk anything at all, and as I went to scroll down while I was recording the Camtasia, it was lagging a lot, and so I thought I'd scroll down enough to click on it, but it actually lagged over the button for Roost. So as you're going to see on this turn 1, he Scarfed and clicks Moonblast, I survived my sash and click Roost, when what I wanted to do was I'd swap out to my Araquanid, and now what that means is that my Hydreigon sash is broken and done for, and I could have gone into Araquanid and preserved it and been in a much better spot. So now what happens is I send in Araquanid, he Moonblasts again, so basically I go to click, and I go into Araquanid, I can tank that Moonblast, but now it's kind of shit because my Hydreigon sash has been broken. So the same thing would have happened by turn 1, but instead now it's turn 2, and my sash broken. I make a really nice read, one of the only ones I make in the game, that he's going to go Toxicroak on this turn. So I actually go for the Hidden Power Psychic and get a clean half on the Cane Toad, and he doubles into Sizzle here. Now I was definitely having a 50-50 on this turn. I had to click HP Psychic because if he Gunk Shotted, it had a chance to kill me if he was Life Orb, and I just wanted to be able to knock out this Toxicroak. It's a huge threat to my team. But he does double into Sizzle, I just go for the Hidden Power Psychic again. Now this turn, I kind of messed up, and this is one of the ones where I was just kind of, I was autopiloting. I wasn't really thinking through my plays, I was just clicking moves, and I clicked Liquidation here, and what I should have done was clicked HP Psychic again, because if Sizzle was set up, it didn't matter, because I could have just then gone into my Blaziken and got a kill. He didn't have a switch in at that point for the Blaziken, so I wouldn't have been in a bad spot at all. Like, Blaziken literally just ran through his team, so if Sizzle kills something and stays in, that's good. So I should have just clicked HP Psychic to cover the potential U-turn into Toxicroak play, but of course I don't because I'm an idiot. I let him U-turn, he goes into Toxicroak, and I click Liquidation. And he gets free health back. If I had clicked HP Psychic, it was a roll to kill the Toad, but it could have been a dead Toad, and that would have made this game a lot easier in the long run, as you will see. So, really bad from me there, and I lose my I lose my thing for nothing. I go into Necrozma, he just goes for the Gunk, and unfortunately he gets the Poison. This sucks. I'm able to Geyser and kill the Toad. Poison is super unfortunate. He's going to go into Zard now. I'm going to choose Preserve because I can go into my Gliscor and just take any hit from this Zard, as he does just Blitz. Blitz does a ton, but luckily does not get the burn. So I can 1v1 this thing, and I know that. So I believe what I do here is I go for the... I could have gone for more aggressive play. I figured he was going to go for HP Ice here, so I go out to my Gengar. And at this point, I'm in a pretty good spot to just go straight for the Icy Wind. He does go Stacker, which sucks, because now he's going to be even harder to deal with in Trick Room. Go back to my Glasgow, though, because I know Glasgow can take these Gyro Balls like they're nothing. And so I'm in an okay spot right now. He goes back into Lando, and I choose this turn to go for my Rocks to weaken that Zard, to basically set up myself right now for Blaziken win, was my mindset, as he doubles, and I double back into Necrozma. Now, the reason I did that was because on that turn, I felt that the Lando would come in, I click Rocks. If he was going to HP Ice, I could take it, but I was also fearing the potential for a Supersonic Sky Strike, and I kind of wanted Necrozma just as a sack for Supersonic Sky Strike in that situation, but instead, he just goes Stacker. I choose to Earth Power knowing it would kill, but he actually has the Sugar Berry and goes for Rocks, and I'm going to die to Poison. Now, here's where I make yet another mistake. Really annoying how many mistakes I make in this game. So on this turn, I had a few options. One was definitely I could have just gone into Blaziken and got a kill. I could have just clicked Flare Blitz, probably would have knocked this thing out, but also I could have just clicked High Jump Kick and just knocked something out, because if Lando came in, so be it. If Garde came in, so be it. I could kind of play around them. As long as I kept Glasgow healthy, I was fine. But really what I should have done is just go on Glasgow. If I'd gone on Glasgow on this turn, I could have clicked my Earthquake, and if he went into Lando, I could have played around that. Or I could have just gone Glasgow and just gone for Toxic, and baited the Stack Attack. Actually, I don't think I had Toxic, I had Ice Fang, but I could have just clicked Ice Fang, because there's no reason for Stacker to stay in, it can't touch me, and if Lando comes in, I get to chip that for free. But instead, like an idiot, I go into Hydreigon, assuming that I can just kill it from this range, but it was a roll, and I shouldn't have risked that at all, and I lose my Hydreigon. So a Hydreigon that should have been at almost full health, just chilling, is now dead, doing absolutely nothing in this game, other than Dark Pulsing here. So I was pretty annoyed there, as I go into what should have been my appropriate play from the start, into Gliscor and clicking EQ and killing it. But at this point, I know now that the game is basically over, because it's a Scarfed Gardevoir, which means my only chance of winning is somehow baiting the Scizor to come in and setting up an Agility with Blaziken, because if I can weaken the Lando now with my Gliscor, then everything is in range of Blaziken winning. But because I made the bad play earlier with a Rakwanid and not clicking the Hidden Power Psychic, it also means that Necrozma got weakened. Now, if Necrozma was healthy, I could have gone in with that as well. So I just realized at this point it was going to be a loss. All I could do for now was try and salvage differential. So he goes into his Lando. He actually does reveal the Supersonic Sky Strike, but because I'm a very bulky Gliscor, I can take that. I drop the Ice Fang on him, I go for a good amount of damage. And this is the point where I realized it was checkmate. What I probably should have done on this turn was let Gliscor go down. The reason for that is because it wasn't that I didn't think that Greg had Earthquake. It was more that in that situation there was nothing I could really do about the situation there. Unless he wasn't running enough speed to creep Blaziken, but he told me afterwards he was, so that sucked. It really just came down to who I would rather have the kill, and this is where it sucked losing Hydreigon like I did, because in this situation what I could have done was, if the Stack Attacker was still there, I could have kept the Gliscor around, killed the Stack Attacker, and then I would have left Hydreigon at what, 88% health after Rocks, because the Sash would have been broken, and like the game still playing out. And if I still had Hydreigon around, what that would have meant is that he couldn't just click Psychic with Gardevoir. He had to pick his moves a lot more carefully, and what it would have meant is I could have either brought it back to a better differential, or I could have set myself up to a point where I could have won the game. Because what I could have done is, if in this situation Landorus was going for the HP Ices, I could have sacked off my Gliscor and then proceeded to send in Gengar again. Now in that situation, he has a 50-50 to make when he goes into Gardevoir. He's either going to go for the Psychic and kill my Gengar, but allow Hydreigon in for free, or he's going to go for the Moonblast, predicting Hydreigon, and Gengar stays in and gets a kill. So in that 50-50, my plan then was, if Scizor came in, I could bait the Scizor to kill me. I would just keep clicking moves that Scizor can't use to kill me with, and then that would allow Blaziken to come in with the Landorus weakened, with the Gardevoir in range, and with the Zard in range. I could have clicked my Agility, and that would have been it. And that's the frustrating part, is that if I was actually playing, and if I was actually thinking through my options, I knew exactly how I could have won that game. And it's frustrating because, like, don't get me wrong, obviously Greg did play really well, using the Toxic Rogue, predicting well, and the Stack Attacker being very bulky. Both of those were excellent. A couple of things that were annoying. One was that poison from Gunk Shot, because without the poison on Gunk Shot, Necrozma could have killed the Stack Attacker after it got up rocks, which means I wouldn't have had to risk the High Dragon. It means I wouldn't have to risk the Gliscor or anything else. Stack Attacker would have just died at that point. And then obviously the first turn kind of sucked, because having High Dragon, like I said, good health in this situation. I didn't need to preserve Gliscor. If I still had High Dragon, I wouldn't have. I would have let Gliscor die to Lando, and then, like I said, gone into Gengar. Because after that, Gengar basically gets a kill here. It clicks Icy Wind. Nothing on his team can really switch in, barring Sizzle. And if Sizzle switches in, I spam Icy Wind to allow Gengar to die to it in that situation. Unless, of course, he clicks U-turn, but even if he does there, my Blaziken can live a hit. The problem would have been, and the way Greg could have played it, which would have made it tricky. I think what I would have done probably with Gengar is clicked Will-O-Wisp on the Sizzle, because if he clicked BP to knock me out because he was banded, that's fine. Blaziken just wins. But if he's clicking U-turn, then I could go for the Willow, and that means that my Blaziken could potentially live the Gardevoir's Moonblast into Sizzle BP if I needed it to. So definitely a lot of variables that could happen in that game. The problem was that my variables were incredibly dependent on me being able to bypass around the Gardevoir. And really what it came down to too, looking at the situation of this game, given that Zard itself is going to be down to, what would that be, 56 or so when it comes in, I was also kicking myself at the fact that I didn't bring Scarf Gengar, because the reason I didn't was because I was so scared of Alolan Raticate, but at the same time, for Alolan Raticate to, like, it was again the situation, if I had the setup Blaziken, I didn't care about Raticate. Raticate was setup fodder, and like he'd switch out into Lando probably to protect it, and then Blaziken could go in. So overall, I think that was the biggest mistake I made when it came to prep, was not bringing something that could outspeed Gardevoir immediately, and Gengar would have been that Pokemon. I could have clicked Icy Wind here to knock out Lando, and then if Gardevoir came in, I could have sacked off Gliscor, gone back into Gengar, and clicked Shadow Ball safely. Would have probably would have knocked out Gardevoir, I believe, from that range when it was coming in. And then after that, obviously Sizzle could come in and kill me, but then I could go into Blaziken, and like I said, agility up, and that's game. So I have myself to blame. I'm going to let this play out, because you kind of can tell how this is going to finish. I'll Icy Wind and kill the Lando, and Gardevoir is going to come in and clean up the rest of my team. We're going to lose 3-0, because if I was a Scarf Gengar, we would have been in an okay spot. But unfortunately we weren't. If I was Scarf Guy, like I said, I would have sacked off the Gliscor there to the Psychic, sent back in Gengar, and clicked Shadow Ball. I think Shadow Ball from there had a good chance to knock out Gardevoir. I couldn't click Sludge Wave because I would have allowed Scissor Room for free. I didn't have Sludge Wave either. I was running, like I said, the Hidden Power Fighting set for the Raticate, but like Zard couldn't switch in on that Shadow Ball, I don't think, from that range. It depends on how bulky his Zard was as to whether he could switch in that situation. But again, if I was a Scarf set, I could have also just locked myself into the wave to ensure Gardevoir went down, to ensure Zard couldn't come in, and mainly to ensure that Sizzle is forced in to take on the Gengar, and then it comes down to the 50-50 of, do I predict the Sizzle to U-turn or whatever. A weird kind of amalgamation of everything. But you know what, GG to Greg. He honestly, the big thing that I always say a lot in my analyst work is, if your opponent is, you know, struggling, or if there is like an issue, you have to take the advantage. You have to like swoop in, take the advantage, and get the W, and that's what he did. And I can commend him for that. I obviously didn't play on my A game at all, and like reflecting on the game again, like against Gypsy, I know the right plays after the game, but it's more I need to understand them during the game, and my mental state wasn't great during that time. This is also the time when I actually announced that I would not be doing powering things anymore, because I just didn't have like as much passion for the game. I was getting really frustrated at myself, and when that happens, I try and take a step back and a step away from Mons in general. But I am better now. I took a bit of time off. I'm feeling a lot better now about myself, and we're going to try and bounce back next week against Dan and the Cincinnati Slifer Reds. I've got some transfers coming up. They won't be in for the game against Dan, but they will happen for the weeks afterwards. But yeah, pretty rough start for us now. We are 0-2 -7. We're going to need a good result against Dan to get ourselves back into, not necessarily the title race, because obviously this is different from the PPL. you're not trying to just get to number one. You just got to try and get to playoffs, which is all I'm going to try and do every single season, is just get to that playoff spot. So I'm going to try my best. We're going to see what happens. I'm pretty frustrated with how I played in this game, but at the same time, you know what? Kudos to Greg. He did really well. I'm going to leave his links in the description. I also apologize for the lateness of this upload. I will be making sure I've got my team builder and other stuff against Dan, because we have actually already played, recorded, good to go, all that jazz. It's all set. So all I got to do is take care of that stuff, and then that'll be uploaded on time. So I do apologize for lateness. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video though. If you have, you know, like the video, subscribe, all that good shit. Yeah, definitely check out Greg. He's a phenomenal battler, and definitely deserved to win on the day. I didn't play well at all. He played exactly how he needed to win, so I got a lot of respect for that. So yeah, not a great start to the season, but at the same time, we can bounce back. Literally, if we have 2 good results in a row, we will be back in positive differential and in a good spot. So hopefully that can happen. We'll see how it goes, but I'll catch you guys next week. My name's Verd. I'm out this bitch.